Battle Royale games are nothing new, and I would imagine that most people have either played or seen a Battle Royale game, but Firestorm is the first attempt at not only a Battlefield BR, but also a Frostbite engine BR, and because of that, it's got a few things that aren't that common in other games that you may be familiar with. And so I wanted to run through some of my top tips for success in Firestorm. So let's get started. Now, while some players will be diving into Firestorm with previous experience from other BR games, not everyone is in the same position. So some of these tips are going to be general tips that apply to most BR games. Before we even get into the plane, make sure that you pick the right look. Why is this important? Well, in Firestorm you can pick a faction and a class at the beginning of a game, but it makes zero difference to your character. There are no actual differences between any of the classes, it is simply using your chosen class from your Battlefield company for the visuals. The German faction tends to have more white cosmetics, and let's be honest, Firestorm takes place on a mostly snowy map, so why not try and not put yourself at a disadvantage and wear a bright red top? It could be a small difference, but it's worth going through some of your classes and changing up the gear to fit in with the environment if you're really that bothered. Now into the actual game stuff. Parachuting or skydiving is pretty simple, so I won't bore you with the mechanics of it. One thing you need to know is that you can make it to roughly 1400 meters, give or take if you need to, so bear that in mind if you're trying to long shoot. Now let's talk looting, because this is a big one. Right now in Firestorm the looting situation is far from ideal. We know that, but without dwelling on it, let's take a look at some specific things that can help you out. First of all, you can get good loot in lots of places, not just named locations, but if you do drop into named locations, you're probably going to find more loot opportunities from things like strongboxes and safes. Strongboxes are basically wooden crates that you'll find around the map. You don't need to do anything in particular to open them, but they could have any number of items in them from healing to weapons. Safes on the other hand are usually found in named locations, in buildings or warehouses, and you need to hold the interact button for quite some time to open them. It's around 20 seconds, and if you stop, it doesn't keep your progress, so you really need to make sure that you're safe, pun intended, before you try to open them. It's worth knowing too that the loot you can find has tiers. Green is the basic tier, and then blue and purple. The way it works in Firestorm is that when it comes to weapons, rarity of the weapon denotes the attachments, including specializations. The base STG-44, for example, is going to be just fine, but it will have no sights attached. The blue version, however, has a reflex sight as well as the recoil buffer and quick aim specializations, and the purple STG, the best one, has the barrel bedding, custom stock and the NIDAR sight, so it is statistically better. Firestorm has no attachment system though, so in most cases weapon rarity is a direct upgrade, unless you don't like the weapon sight, in which case you're stuck with it. There are a few weapons that I'll lean towards. The purple Bren I think is fantastic, as is the Gewehr 43. STG also extremely good, even just the blue version. But when it comes to submachine guns, then I tend to go for the ammo capacity, and the Tommy gun, for example, only gets extended mags on the purple version, so you're at a bit of a disadvantage if you've got the green or blue version. So you really need to pick a weapon that suits your playstyle, and if you can, have two different weapon types. If you want those purple items though, then named locations are usually your best bet. Places like the Dam or Odenburg, the docks, Pluto dig site, that's where to go. Now that's not to say they are the only places that you can get purple items from. There are plenty of other loot places, and there are Sullus crates dotted around the map, even under bridges, so look out for them. There's even a large ship near the docks that's got a lot of loot on it too, and that's not a named point. If you want another chance at good loot and you feel up to it, then you can capture resupply points. You'll notice that these are dotted around the map, as they've got a large balloon on top of them and some supply crates underneath, but they're locked. If and when that point becomes active, you can capture it, and you'll be given a prompt in game to capture either A, B or C, and then you'll see that on your map, not only where they are, but if someone else is capturing them. Finish the cap and the supply crate will open up with some juicy loot. Be careful though, because if players are close, they could get the drop on you, because they will see on their map that someone is capturing that point. It's a risk-reward scenario. Backpacks also make a big difference in Firestorm, much like in any other game, but in Firestorm it's to carry gadgets. Healing items have their own slot, but you can pick up all sorts of items from panzers to anti-tank mines, grenades, medical syringes, and depending on the size of your backpack you can store them there, but you'll need to move them to an available gadget slot if and when you want to use them. You have one slot for healing, one for grenades, and then 2 gadget slots. And armor plates will in fact take up one of those slots too if you have them, and we'll get onto those later. What's important about your backpack, at least to me, is to try and keep items in the same slots where you can to build muscle memory. Say you put your armor plates in the left slot, but then next game they're in the right slot, so it could lead to you trying to get to them in a rush and make a mistake. Sadly, armor doesn't have a set slot like healing does, so try to keep panzers and certain gadgets in similar places all the time so you can easily access them with a familiar key press. If you're playing as a squad, I think you really need to decide early on if you're going to go for a vehicle, because vehicle ammo and fuel is found dotted around the world in Firestorm, and it's going to take up a space in your inventory. Those large bunkers dotted around the map, what are they? Well, they hold the vehicles and tanks, and when you open them up, they make a very loud noise that's going to alert enemies around you, so be prepared. Not only that, but you'll need to open both doors to get the vehicle out, although you don't always need to open them fully. It just depends on the size of the tank or the vehicle. I'd honestly stick to infantry only in solos though, but vehicles are way more useful in squads. In solos you're going to need to switch seats to fire, unless you've got the Sturmtiger, and this leaves you quite vulnerable. Also, most of the time there will be fuel and ammo at the back of the bunker, so make sure that you fill the vehicle up before you head out. And going back to your inventory for a second, make sure that you manage it well, and if you find that your inventory is full, chances are you've picked up ammo for a weapon that you're not using, usually a shotgun, so either offer it to a teammate or drop it to make space for ammo that you do actually need. Let's talk movement, because in Firestorm you've got a few options to get around without being hit. First of all, you can vault over most surfaces, including a high grab, so that's going to help you get around obstacles that you thought may block you in other games. You can also crouch run, and that's not only going to help you move faster while being a smaller target, but it's also going to allow you to move more silently, and that can absolutely help if you're trying to sneak up on people. Also, don't neglect or forget about the sliding mechanic. You're probably not going to be using it as much in, let's say, Apex, but can help you in some instances to get away from trouble, into cover, or just sliding towards an enemy while shooting to throw their aim off. And if you do end up in trouble, remember a few things. First of all, when you're using a syringe, you will heal over time, so always heal first and armor plate after, because while your healing syringe is on its small cooldown, you're replacing your armor shields rather than wasting time. And then heal again and redo your next armor plate if you need to. In Firestorm, you find armor plates around the world, and depending on your vest, you can either have 1 plate, 2 plates, or 3 stopping damage. You can also carry a spare 3 in your inventory at any one time as well, and so armor plates right now are almost like gold dust, a rare commodity, so make sure that you use them wisely. Also, you may be interested to know that a teammate can heal you if you're really in trouble, and vice versa, so if you've got a kind teammate, then they could actually heal you whilst you're stocking back up on armor. Worth knowing for efficiency in squad games. When it comes to general gameplay, I think you need to remember some key things. First of all, the Ring of Fire in Firestorm is brutal. Unlike most other BR games, when you get close to it, you get a lot of smoke and ash around your screen and a lot of noise, making it hard to see and hear. So don't get too close if you don't have to. You also can't see into it that well or out of it, so be careful if you think an enemy could be running in or out, because it's going to be really hard to spot them before it's too late. When you're inside it, your vision is also massively impaired, so for once in a BR game, the fire or the zone is not somewhere that you want to be. Not only that, but the fire will destroy anything in its path when it moves in, including buildings, so if you're in one when that happens, the chances are that you could take a lot of damage or be killed, so be somewhere else. With most BR games though, if you can keep your back to the small side of the circle, you will have a bit less to worry about. What that means is that if you're at the point of the next zone that has the least space behind it, in theory, you have less angles to think about. And also visibility. In general, it's going to be pretty tough in Firestorm as players blend in quite well. And if they have a machine gun, they could easily be lying prone somewhere, or even worse, hiding inside a building. And that happens a lot in Firestorm, so be careful when entering any building, because it could be your last. Where Firestorm changes the meta up though is that every building can be destroyed, and destruction makes a huge difference here too. In almost every match you're going to have some sort of explosive arsenal available to you, so if you think someone is in a building, use that explosive. If rubble is landing on them, it's going to do damage. Throw dynamites at the roof spaces, chuck a Panzerfaust up there. Remember that from the flip side too. If you're in a building and get spotted, enemies could easily target it and destroy it. This is not PUBG, that building is not a safe spot. Also watch out for artillery and V1 rockets. If you see red smoke near you, run, as artillery and V1s really do a ton of damage and have a massive splash area. With artillery, you're shown a radius on your minimap of where it's going to land, but I wouldn't always trust it, so stand a bit further back just to be safe, because the splash damage can be severe. Also remember that V1s and artilleries can damage your teammates too, so watch out for that. A few other quick tips: don't worry about taking damage getting out of vehicles, as there is none, at least not that what I've experienced. That doesn't of course count for fall damage out of a helicopter, but when you're hopping out of a moving friendly car, you can jump out at any speed without too many concerns. There will be an animation though. And that's all for today guys, I hope you enjoyed that and learned something new. If you did, please consider sharing the video and leaving a like down below. If you didn't like it, dislike it, let me know your pro tips below, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.